My favorite thing about these vehicles, everything is available, you know. Something like this, interior pieces, original factory rugs for the floor, headliner, all that stuff's available. And that's what makes it really kind of fun to do. Welcome to episode of J-Lo's Garage, the car featuring today 1965 Pontiac Grand Prix. Now this is about as far from a Grand Prix car as you could get, but it's still smaller than the Bonneville or even the Catalina 2+2. This was probably Pontiac's greatest era. This is when their cars were the most popular. You know, John DeLorean became the head of Pontiac, and all through the 50s, Pontiac was seen as kind of a salesman's car. Salesman bought them, you could carry your things in it, whatever. It was the second car. There was nothing exciting about it. And John DeLorean liked performance, so he introduced the wider track in the back, bigger engines, just wanted to make Pontiac the performance arm of General Motors, which it quickly became when it introduced the GTO in 1964. You remember General Motors had an edict: big engines and big cars, middle engines and middle cars, small engines, small cars. You couldn't put big engines in smaller cars. And John DeLorean's idea was to take the big 421 cubic inch block or the 389 and put it into the GTO, which you could do with a special purchase order. You would order that. The company loved them, the salesman loved them. They weren't sure how many people would buy it, but the first year they sold quite a few. So then it became a standard model, the Pontiac GTO, and it was a runaway hit. Most people consider it the first muscle car. That's probably true in terms of advertising. I mean, the advertising is crazy. They had a tiger tail you could have hanging out the gas tank, you know, all these kind of things. And just crazy ads. You had the song Little GTO, which was a huge hit at the time. And it really all led to the development, making Pontiac the performance arm. And this was something for the older, more mature gentlemen who wanted speed and power, but didn't need a small car like the GTO, which is not really a small car. But this is what you would call a full-size automobile back in the day. Now this one is interesting. Here's how I acquired this car. I was installing my 1968 Pontiac Firebird, this one right here, okay. And we did a bit of a resto mod to it. Engine was kind of stock, but we did the suspension. We went to 15-inch wheels. On the restoration blog way back in the day, I said I was taking off the 14-inch wheels, putting 15-inch wheels on. I heard from a gentleman named James Taylor. He had a 65 Pontiac. And he called me and said, hey, I was watching your thing there. You want to sell those 14-inch wheels? And I don't really sell stuff. I said, well, I don't know. Tell me about yourself. And he told me he's a 22-year Navy man, you know, attack pilot during the war. And I said, you mean fighter pilot? He goes, no, attack pilot. I said, what do you mean? He says, fighter pilots make movies. Attack pilots save lives and kick ass. You know, a real Navy guy, you know. And I thought, oh, I like this guy, you know. He said, how much you want for the wheels? I said, well, I'll tell you what, this is, you know, you guys enabled me to buy this thing and you protect it. I can't sell it to you. I'll tell you what, I won't sell it to you, but I'll give them to you. And that's the deal. You either take it or leave it. And he goes, no, I'll take it. Oh, okay, great. So I sent him the wheels and he thought that was fun. And a very nice guy, and we kept in touch. Well, the wheels didn't fit. And then he called me back, says, I'll send them back to you. I said, you know, do you know any other Navy veterans, any other guys working on Pontiacs? Give them to them. So he found somebody to give them to him. And we became friends. And he was getting up in years then. I think he was in his late 70s. And he called me one day and he kind of a little bit dejected. You know, these projects, you start them, and then you realize gas tanks are rusted out, and it just becomes overwhelming how much work you have to do to it. And, you know, being a retired Navy guy, I don't know whether he's on a pension or not, but, you know, it was expensive. He said, look, I can't afford this. If I give it to you, will you take it? I said, well, sure, okay. So he gave it to me and I restored it, and I called him, and that's where we are now. That's led to where it is now. I'm going to bring him out here as soon as the winter months are over, and we'll take him for a ride, and he was thrilled. You know, the car had a lot of history for him. He had one of these when he was a young sailor, and he had a son. And he lives somewhere not far from Los Angeles, but not near any big metropolitan area. And he had a 2-year-old son that swallowed a bottle of aspirin. And the doctors, he called, they said, get him to a hospital as quickly. So he and his wife threw the baby in the car. They drove the Pontiac Grand Prix at 120 miles, boom, just running every light. It got to the hospital. And the doctor told him, if you had gotten here like 5 minutes later, your child probably would have died. So he credits the Pontiac Grand Prix with kind of saving his son's life. And it was a pretty emotional time for him. And that's why he was so invested in this. So we've sort of kept in touch, and I'm going to bring him down, and he's going to drive it. He's 88 years old now, going at 89. And it'll be fun to take him out for a run when he gets here. I would have liked to have had him here now, but it just wasn't possible. So we'll do an update on that later. But that's pretty much how we did it. We painted to the original color. It has 14-inch wheels. Again, I was going to put 15-inch wheels on these, but Pontiac in 65 had a strange lug pattern on the wheels. We couldn't find any 15-inch wheels that fit. So all right, let's just go back to the 14s and keep it completely stock. Well, it's not completely stock because the stock motor is a 389. This is a more modern 400 GM V8. So it's got a little more horsepower. It's really comfortable. It handles pretty good. It's fun to drive. I always thought the Firebird handled better than the stock Camaro. It's a huge car. But it's really a good looking car. It's a comfortable car. Come on, let me open the hood. I'll show you what it's like under here. I like how the Grand Prix is in red, kind of stands out. We updated it with vintage air conditioning. They are really terrific, especially on American stuff. Everything fits right in, it bolts right up. The compressor's smaller than the original one, uses less horsepower, but puts out more cool air. It's really freezing in this thing in just a few minutes, and it just works wonderfully. You can drive with the windows up and save your interior. The engine compartment really hasn't been restored too much because we didn't know how far we wanted to go with it. We were just going to fix it up. Well, we painted it. Well, let's do a little bit more. Well, so we just sort of stopped here temporarily anyway. So, but it looks good. It runs good. Put a more modern radiator in it, a few other things like that. Now, one thing that we should change, and will change soon, you have a one brake master cylinder. Modern cars, you'll see 2 brake lines coming out, one for the front brakes, one for the rear brakes. So if your front brake should fail or your rear brake should fail, you always have the backup brake. This, if the brakes fail, then the brakes, then you got nothing. And this is, a heavy car and you're rolling down the road, you put your foot down the pedal and it goes right to the floor, you're in a lot of trouble. So although they're reasonably dependable and work pretty good, they do fail occasionally. That's why you have a dual master cylinder. That's a single master cylinder. So we'll replace that with a dual one, and that's pretty much it. We haven't really cleaned up under the hood. We didn't do a body off restoration on this. It was a pretty clean car. We just kind of did step by step, and then the paint. Well, let's do the all right. Let's do the, and that's where we are. So I think it's what my dad always calls, it's a good old girl, a nice running car. Let's make it look as good as we can for a reasonable amount of money. And I think that's where most people are. I like the fender skirts. I think they give it a little bit of style. You don't really see that anymore in cars. I mean, it really is an enormous thing. I love the translucent steering wheel, and you got a big vacuum gauge down on the transmission tunnel. You're supposed to use that. I don't know how you're supposed to be driving. Go, what is the vacuum gauge? Nope! And then you hit something, Automatic 3-speed transmission. Let's see, let me get the key. Enormous trunk. I enjoy talking to Mr. Taylor. His name is James Taylor, just like the like the musician, and just one of those old school guys, Navy man, good moral character, just the whole deal, just a American hero, whatever we want to call them. I mean, to me they are. Anybody that fought in that war, especially in planes and getting shot down and shooting back. I mean, that's I don't see myself doing that. So I'm glad there are men and women that can do it for us. Let's show you what this trunk looks like. And this thing is so huge. All right, that's a trunk. Take a look at that. I like the overall styling of this thing. For the 60, it's pretty subdued. Notice headrests had not come into popular use just yet. And you got a bit of wood trim in it. It's enormous. Look how big it is. But you know, once you're in it, it floats down the road. It's got that, what they used to call boulevard ride. Oh, okay, it's very comfortable on the freeway. It's really, it makes me smile, you know. It just brings me back to when this was a hot car when I was 15 years old, you know. My friend Fred, his mom had a 401 Wildcat, a 63, and we would get in and he'd put it in neutral, floor it, and then drop it in gear. Then one day the transmission fell out. And Ma, I don't know what happened. But yeah, those were the days. But anyway, come on, let's start it up. We'll take it for a ride, and we'll show you what you can do. I think James is going to be pleased when he sees this thing in person. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, these cars are so big, and the wind, it's like panoramic. You know, the A-pillar is so thin you can actually see if there's anybody in your blind spot here. You know, modern cars have to have the thick A-pillar in case the car rolls over. It acts as a roll bar. But in these days, nobody cared about that. I mean, when I was a kid, you could buy these cars for next to nothing, a couple of $100, you know. Dealers wouldn't give people anything for a trade-in, so you usually get it pretty cheap. My favorite thing about these vehicles, everything is available, you know. When you're restoring Duesenbergs and rare cars, you just don't find any parts, and when you do, they're a fortune, and they're usually worn out parts anyway, and you gotta make do and reprint. And you know, something like this, interior pieces, original factory rugs for the floor, headliner, all that stuff's available. And that's what makes it really kind of fun to do. Makes it an easy restoration. You know, water pumps, maybe $100, $150, something like that. You don't break the bank just working on the thing. I think this thing must have always been a California car because the windshield has absolutely no pitting at all, you know. Sometimes if you're down in Palm Springs, San Diego, anywhere near the desert, you get slight wind and it picks up little granules of sand and they just sandblast your windshield, you know. You don't notice one day it's sunny and then you realize you're getting sparklies all over the place. But this one is pretty good. So somebody, I think, kept this thing garage. People give you the thumbs up on this car. This is how you adjust your rear view mirror. First you turn the handle down, and then there you go. Pontiac had some of the best advertising of the period. Guy, I think it was Art Fitzgerald, great artist. He would draw Pontiacs, and they're always just a little bigger than real life. The people inside were very tiny, and you know, the guy got his arm across like this. And he'd always be talking to a woman in a tennis outfit or something. And it's always very funny, because always pulling into a country club or some upscale place like that. But you could drive cross country in this thing and it would be extremely comfortable, really comfortable to drive. And they could make the trips no problem at all. Back in the day, they wanted the cars to look lower, leaner, wider, you know, so they put these 14-inch tires on so it actually sit, you know, half an inch lower. It looks okay. It's not. I prefer a larger tire on the front, but it's all right. That was the style back in the day. Of course, the big disadvantage of 14-inch wheels is you can't get a proper size brake disc rotor under there to help you stop. I mean, it drives very, very nice. It's really quite good. You know, we really haven't done anything to affect the driving of it. In terms, I mean, we just, you know, cleaned it up and flushed the carburetor, did a bunch of things. It was sitting for a long time, but it runs very nice. Back in the early 60s, Pontiac did a couple of lightweight cars, you know, with aluminum front ends, aluminum bumpers. They were literally just a half a millimeter thick, you know. You could put your thumbprint in it and leave a mark. But the idea was they looked stock, but were extremely light, and they were pretty fast, even by modern standards. And when I was a kid, this was the size cars were. Your dad bought a full-size car, that's what you get. You know, my favorite era was back in the 60s when General Motors, each division developed their own engine. Pontiac engines were known for having a lower RPM and higher torque, and Chevy engines had higher RPM and lower torque. It's just the way they did it, I guess. But there was a clear differentiation. Nowadays, everybody kind of uses the same motor, and it's, I don't know, you miss out on that character. Oldsmobiles had a certain look. Buicks were known for their smoothness. That was their thing. Before Pontiac, Oldsmobile was kind of the performance arm of General Motors, you know. Right after World War II, they were the first with the overhead valves. I got a very funny piece of video from the 40s with the Hudson Hornet and the Oldsmobile 88. And the hood's up at the Oldsmobile 88, and the mechanic, the owner's yelling, "Why is my car ready? These overhead valves, Mr. Johnson, oh, they're horrible to try, and you can't adjust them." Then they pan over to the guy with the Hudson. He's just torquing the head on the flathead 6. "There you go, Mr. Riley, all set to go." Oh, everybody was named Johnson or Riley. That was the other thing. I can't wait for Mr. Taylor to see how it turned out and let him drive it. He'll probably be 89 years old when he drives it. But that's okay. I'm thinking maybe we could reenact that. I'll get in the back, swallow a bunch of aspirin, and see if he can get me to the hospital on time. But yeah, I thought that was a great story. Like I said, if you ever get a chance to do something for a veteran, give it a shot. It'll make you feel good. It'll make him feel good too about the sacrifice he made on our behalf. So anyway, hey, thanks you guys. I hope you enjoyed this little piece of nostalgia. This was a fun thing to do. We didn't go overboard. We just want to make it look nice and fix it up so when the boss comes back, we can take it for a ride. Hey, alrighty. Mr. Taylor, thank you, sir. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.